But what was it like going to Afghanistan and
Yeah.
you're in the field, right? So
Yeah.
what was that like?
Well, I called it false sense of security because, even though you're in an active war zone, you're not in the middle of the fire. It's not like, bullets are flying over your head and things like that. But that said, because we were, so Afghanistan was the war that changed the way journalists were treated and seen. And this is the first time that, journalists were kidnapped and seen as kind of bargaining tools versus, storytellers, And so it was a very dicey situation, although it was kind of underground. I mean, we would wake up sometimes and we would see leaflets that were offering, $50,000 for a dead American and $100,000 for a live American, which incited poor people who live there to try and get you in because that way they get paid. It was exhilarating. I called it the James Bond syndrome, because you don't know what's going to happen to you any moment. You don't know if you're going to go to bed. You're going to actually wake up because they can throw a grenade into the building.
What was that like having two young girls and going there? That a little scary if you don't come back.
It really was. Well, Isabel was my younger one was very young, so she doesn't really remember much. But Madeline was very aware and very scared because when I arrived home from my war training before I headed off to Afghanistan, I had my flak jacket and my helmet and lots of medications because I was going to the Wild West basically. So if something were to happen or I was injured or somebody else was injured, I had to be, I had tools to help, everything from easing the pain to identifying wounds to doing whatever was necessary, basically. So, so I had all kinds of medications and drugs on me, and cash.
Yes.
And that was a really interesting sight because I thought it was kind of cool because I'm such a badass. I come home with like a flak jacket and a helmet and like all that.
But it's real. It's real.
And then the next day I get a call from the teacher that Madeline is in tears. And I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I didn't even think.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things that always stuck with me was the fact that there was not a single standing building. Everything was like half blown up. There were like caves, and it felt like you were in a completely different part of, not just part of the world, but it's not even being to poor countries, which I've been to plenty. It's literally being like centuries away from civilization and from where the world is. But in the midst of all this, there was a lot of hope, and it was very interesting to watch Afghan people transition from living in fear under Taliban to getting those glimpses of hope. I was there when the girls went to school for the first time, and that was really exciting. It was very exciting to see.
Watching the kids over there go to school.
But they were not just kids. There were some young women who were not allowed to ever go to school.
Right, because of the Taliban. Yes.
Who went to school.
So what was that like?
Oh, incredible.
Just dirt, right? Because when I went to some of these places, their schools were literally on dirt, just like huts and small little chalkboard, if that.
Yes. Not even huts. Yes, lots of dirt. Kids, adults, young adults, women, sitting around writing with twigs on pieces of paper and dipping in ink. No school supplies, no anything. But the excitement.
Yeah, I always tell that to Ava. You got to study. You know how many people aren't even allowed to study?
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an honor to have all the resources we have.
Yeah.
But then after you did all of these fabulous things and had all these adventures, you ended up getting cancer.
I did.
You got cancer. So talk a little bit about that and what was your first thought? And you have these two girls and
here I was having the time of my life.
Yeah. And you're like,
traveling
there's
all
no
over
time
the world.
for cancer. I don't have time for this.
Yeah, so actually I was in Brazil, and I was getting ready for my 40th birthday, and I wanted it to be all white, just like, in Copacabana, I wanted to be on the beach, bare feet, and have it all. So I was all excited about that, getting ready for my 40th birthday, and instead of the party, I got cancer, so that's my story. But in retrospect, it actually was one of the best things that happened in my life because it refocused me. It was a kick in the butt that I needed to look at myself very differently than I did before because I kind of was going and I was doing a lot of exciting and wonderful things, but I never sat down to think about me, and I think that's why it hit me because, cancer is a very emotional disease, and and breast cancer especially, it has to do with, breasts are associated with nourishment and love and care. And when we neglect that, so many women get that. And so that really put brakes on everything I was doing. And I realized, because I always had, my life was crazy. I mean, I barely slept. I was waking up at 3:30, so I had to be at work at 5:30 a.m. And I would come from work and I would pick up the kids from school, and then dinner and homework and activities, and then barely back to bed, and then wake up again. And I worked weekends, and and it was just like, it was a never-ending thing, and it was great and exciting. And I never thought that there was something wrong with that, because that was my life, and that was fun, and I loved it, and I loved every part of it. But after my diagnosis, I had to figure out what it was all about and what I'm all about, and what do I want to do about it. And one of the things that I realized when I was presented with what I call a red carpet of treatments, which is the surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and drugs,